Hello and welcome to Desserts for Dummies. My name's Mez. I'm going to show you how to make a pavlova. I love making pavlova because it's a really impressive looking dessert, but it actually requires almost no effort. So it's a really good way to show off without having to do very much. To make your pavlova you will need a few things. Obviously a mixing bowl and an electric mixer. You can have a hand mixer like this one or a stand mixer. Personally, I prefer a stand mixer if you've got one because it means you can set it running and then just go away and do other things. But a hand mixer will get you exactly the same result, so it doesn't really matter. You'll need a spatula for scraping mix off the sides of the bowl. You'll need a teaspoon measure and a cup measure. Oh, sorry, a tablespoon measure and a cup measure. You'll need a couple of small bowls for separating eggs, a baking tray and some baking paper. It doesn't need to be a fresh piece of baking paper. I often reuse bits that I've previously cooked biscuits on, just as long as it's big enough to cover your baking tray. And at the end you're going to need a chopping board and a knife for chopping up fruit. That's all. There are 4 basic ingredients that go into a pavlova: eggs, caster sugar, vanilla and vinegar. The eggs and sugar make the meringue, the vanilla is just for flavour, and the vinegar makes the pavlova a bit firmer. Honestly, if you're out of vanilla and vinegar, you can still cook a pav with just the eggs and sugar. Go for it, you'll be fine. Of course, you'll also want something to go on top. The typical topping is cream and fruit, often berries or banana or kiwi fruit. Today I'm going with strawberries and kiwi fruit. First things first, you need to turn on your oven. It's a very low oven, only about 120 degrees. You just put it on 120 degrees, leave it to warm up. Next we need to separate the eggs. This can get tricky, so try to have a couple of eggs extra above what you need. That way if something goes wrong, you've got spares. Crack the egg open. And you want to end up with an intact yolk in your eggshell with the white in the bowl underneath. Once you think you've got it just about right, chuck the yolk over in a bowl. Put the white in your mixing bowl and you're good to go. The recipe calls for 4 egg whites. So at the end we're going to have 4 egg yolks left over. Use them for something else if you want, or just chuck them out. If you're using a hand mixer, you want beaters that look kind of like these ones. If you're using a stand mixer, you want to get something that looks just about like this. They're the best ones for whisking. Now we're up to the fun bit. Egg whites at the start of the whole thing are going to look sort of clear and a bit yellow. At the end, they're going to be white and fluffy. Put the mixer into your bowl, turn it on. This process can take a while. It's boring as, so I like to just turn the blender up full bore. Doesn't hurt anything, makes it go faster. Get back. Okay, so you can see our egg whites are now much whiter, much fluffier than they were. This is what it should look like when your egg white is just about mixed. Next comes the sugar. Next we need a cup of caster sugar. Just pour it in the cup. And dunk it in your bowl. Don't need to do it in stages or anything. It's just fine. Start your mixer again. You'll often end up with small bits of sugar stuck to the sides, not actually dissolving in the egg. Just stop your mixer, push it down the sides with your spatula, wipe your spatula off, start your mixer again. This is what it looks like when it's nearly ready, but it's not quite. Pull your mixer up and you can see it sort of just running off the blade, about the consistency of honey. That's not quite ready. Mix it a bit more. Okay, this is looking better. You can see the lines that the mixer has made in the mix are now sort of staying put. It's holding its shape, and that's what we want. Now it's time to put in the vinegar and the vanilla. So I was right the first time, it's not a tablespoon, it's a teaspoon measure that you want. The recipe calls for just under a teaspoon for both ingredients, so I just chuck them in there, get it almost up to the line. Doesn't matter particularly if you're a bit off. Get your vanilla, put some in the teaspoon, chuck it in. Same with the vinegar. Get a bit, feel it almost there, chuck it in. Does not matter if you have a bit too much or a bit too little, so don't worry about being too precise. Then we just mix it a bit more, not too much. Now we just need to get it from the bowl to the tray. Use your spatula to scrape it out and just glop it in a big heap in the middle of the tray. I mean, if you want, you can be exciting and sort of make it into an interesting shape, but basically what we're wanting is a big lump of pav. Done. And then chuck it in the oven. Cooking a pavlova takes about 1.5 hours. When it is done though, you're not going to take it out and use it immediately. You're going to need to leave it in the oven to stay warm for a while after it's officially finished cooking. So normally you expect to cook it one day and then serve it the next day, once it's had a good long time to cook and then sit. Now it's time to get out the pavlova from the oven and see how well we've done. And here it is. You can see here it's a sort of yellowy brown colour. It's not the nice white you get in shops. That's actually a good thing because it means we can be pretty sure it's cooked the whole way through and not undercooked at all. The way to definitely tell, you lift it up like that by peeling away the paper. If it peels away easily and doesn't stick to the paper, it's nicely cooked underneath. If it doesn't peel away easily and you've got some sticky sugar underneath, it's still a bit liquid, you can chuck it back in the oven. It's not going to hurt it. Now I'm going to get it and put it onto my pavlova plate. You can see I didn't have any problem getting my pavlova onto my plate. It's still all intact, still looks quite nice. Sometimes though that is not going to work and you're going to end up with random chunks of pavlova pieces. If this happens, no problem. Serve everyone their own bowl of pavlova individually and it will still taste just as good. You won't get the nice spread on a plate, but it will still look very nice and fancy. Now it's time to do cream and fruit. For the cream, you're going to want about the same mixing bowl setup that you had to do the pavlova and one of these jars of cream. Sometimes the recipes say 300 mils, sometimes they say 600 mils. I usually find somewhere in the middle is about right, so whatever you've got, chuck it in the bowl and mix it up. Very runny. To start with, your cream is going to be very runny. What we want to end up with is fluffy cream that has not turned into butter yet. Let's go. This cream is about halfway through. You can see it's not quite as runny as it was to start with. It's starting to hold its shape, but it still needs some more work. Okay, this is looking right. If you look carefully, you can see that the cream is still holding the shape of where the mixer has been. When we pull the mixer up, you can see it's a very solid kind of shape. This cream will work really well for our pav. Now it's time to cut up my fruit. Careful observers will note that I'm cutting my fruit on my stove. This is not normal, it's just the best place to film. Strawberries are simple enough. Chop off the end. And then usually chop it in half. That'll work well. If you want to be exciting and fancy, you can do something which takes a bit more effort. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in lines almost down to the base, but not quite. So I cut it up almost to the base in little lines all the way across the strawberry. And then I can fan it out into a pretty shape. To do my kiwi fruit, chop off the ends, and then we need to chop all of the sides off. So we're going to end up with it being nice and green all the way around. I chose strawberries and kiwi fruit specifically because they're the trickiest ones. Other berries, you just chuck them on. Banana, you chop it up into slices. Fairly easy. So here's my nicely peeled kiwi fruit. Now just make little slices, not too thick. Yep, that one went too thick. No worries. Yeah, it should be about this shape and size when I'm done. If you have some that are a bit misshapen, call it decorative flair and go with it. And now it's time to decorate. We get the cream and a spatula, just fling it on the top. And then sort of smooth it out. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. Pavlovas are usually messy. That is part of their charm. There we go. And then we get our fruit. If you have gone for the exciting flared strawberries option, then I tend to put those on first so they can look terribly fancy. So you make a sort of pattern, whatever you like. Honestly, if you just fling fruit all over the pav in whatever way you want, it's going to look just as nice. Oops. So it should be fine. Here we are, there's my exciting decoration. Now I'm going to put my kiwi fruit on. Scatter that round. You'll probably think you have far too much fruit for your pavlova, but when you cut into it, you'll find there's actually a very thick pavlova underneath, so you want about as much fruit as you can possibly get on top. And you just fling randomly around. Oops. There we are. Ta-da! There's my pav. As I mentioned, if your pavlova breaks in half as you get it off the baking tray, you can actually make individual serves of pavlova. You can construct those yourself, or you can do what I like to do, which is have a sort of pavlova buffet. You get all your broken pieces of pav in one bowl, you get cream or custard in some other bowls, and then have a whole bunch of different fruit options, and people can build their own pavlova. It can be quite fun.